Hello and welcome to the next devlog of my project Mini Countries. Over the last 2 weeks I've worked on new color palettes for all the seasons, with the possibility that also buildings get influenced by seasonal changes like snow in winter, for example. I finalized some UI stuff like the settings screen. I created new city models since I didn't like the old ones, and I started implementing the port pop-up. Let's start the video after the intro. When starting the project, I began with the most simplest way for coloring my models. I used materials. I created a model in Blender, assigned materials to it. Most of the time it had been a few. And in Unity I created those materials as well to make them look nice in the game. It didn't take me long to realize that this method is not good at all, and I have to find a way to simplify my process. I started using a color palette and UV mapping to assign the colors to the single faces of my models. Later on I created 4 different color palettes, one for each season, to make colors changeable regarding the season. I had one problem that trees, for example, are green in summer but white in winter, so I simply changed the color green to white in the winter color palette. But that made all other faces assigned to the green color appear in white as well, even if they should stay green. So I had to find a way how to solve that problem. So I expanded the color spaces in the color palettes and made the upper area be the default color and the lower area be the influence color by the season. In summer and spring the colors do not change, but in autumn and winter this feature is quite useful, since now the faces which should stay green just have to be assigned to the upper area of the color. Anyway, I wasn't satisfied with the colors itself, so I tried to find better ones. And that are the color palettes I'm now using for the different seasons. So I had to adjust all the models since I had a different texture layout previously, and the colors would now look completely messy. The new color palettes also added the feature that snow is now also visible on buildings, which wasn't the case before. Especially if you have seen before and after shot, you can see it looks way much cooler now, at least in my opinion. Write down in the comments what you think about it. The next thing I wanted to finish was the settings screen. In the last video I showed the creation process of the start and level screen, but this time I want the player to be able to make some settings. The reason for this is because I want to start a first closed alpha very soon, since the game is quite in a good shape in my opinion. If you're interested in the game and you want to be up to date about the creation progress, it's definitely worth to wishlist the game on Steam and to follow the channel. That would really help me and the game. First I wrote a new script which helps me to work a little bit more efficient with grid layouts related to UI stuff. There's a link down in the description to a video of the game dev guide, who made 2 really cool videos about designing UIs, and also the other videos are quite useful if you are an indie developer. You should definitely check him out. So far there are only a few settings like the language and controlling sound and music, and I guess that's all for the moment. Of course, setting up a resolution will be added into the screen before release. Below one of my last videos I got a comment about the current city model and that it doesn't fit to the other models, and that actually was my opinion too. So I took some time looking for some reference photos to create a new model which fits to the style. That's the final model I've created. I'm quite happy with the model itself and the details, and now I have to get some colors into play. And that's the final result in Blender. Let's add it to the game and see how it looks over there. I think it looks pretty cool and it really fits the style, especially if you compare it to the previous version. I realized how I like the work of creating new models for the game, so I continued creating the next step for a city when being upgraded. As I mentioned a few videos ago, the player has the choice of making the city be a worker or assigned city, so I have to create 2 different models for each level. I started with the worker city model. I didn't record the creating progress, so here is the final result of the worker city. Again, I'm quite happy with the result, so let's bring on some colors here as well. This time I skip how it finally looks in Blender and show you the in-game look instead. Looks pretty cool, I think. Before continuing with new city models, I finally started with the port implementation by creating the port popup. First I made some drafts in Inkscape, and actually I was quite satisfied until I recognized in the game that there is a logistical problem. Every time a resource is selected to be exported, all the resources of its kind are transported to the port, which obviously isn't a very good game mechanic. I thought about creating an option for setting a limit to a stock where the player can enter a minimal amount of resources which should stay in the stock, but I decided to keep it even simpler since I don't want the player to do micromanagement. So I changed the mockup, and now you can select the amount of resources you wanna get exported, and the resources will be transported to the port then. What I still have to implement is the ship which brings resources to import and collects the resources you want to export, but this will be done in another devlog video. And that's it for this video. As already mentioned, visit the Steam page to wishlist the game. Moreover, I hope that you really enjoyed the video. Like if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to not miss the next videos. Have a great start into the next week. Keep staying at home, of course, if you can, and see you next time. Cheers.